What is up, YouTube? I am Galladite74 here, bringing you week 2 of my top 10 series. This week I am bringing you my top 10 favorite mons to use in draft. Now, I say favorite, I mean these are the ones that I personally enjoy using the most. This does not mean the best list, so like Tapu Koko, Celesteela, Landity ain't going to be on this list. So that's basically how it is. There's a few lower tier mons in this list, so that's kind of the main gist of this. And before I get into this, this is all my opinion, so if you don't like it, well, okay. And second, if you, I would like to hear about your guys' opinion. That's what I want to say. I want to hear about your guys' opinion in the comment section below of what your favorite mon is to use in draft format, whether it's good or whether it's not too good. In general, if you have fun using it, I'd like to hear about it in the comment section below. Yes, this is a pimple, but it's going away and I still look sexy, so just ignore that during the video. And finally, I am wearing a Gallade as I did last week. I just didn't show it in the video, so here it is. I've had this for a while, and I also have a Mawalite in the other room there. And lastly, I did fix up the green screen a bit. My face is like disoriented as hell right now, but I moved up the light so it like faces the green screen like fully, so the green screen should look really fine. It's just me that might look a little weird when it comes to the lighting. But without further ado, let's break down this list. Alright, so we are going to begin this list with number 10, obviously, because it's the top 10, duh. We're going to start off with Darmanitan. Emoji is here on the list, just barely making the cut. Darmanitan I used for one season in the CKBL. I didn't upload that to YouTube, as I mentioned last week. And I like Darmanitan a lot. I didn't really, I drafted it just to draft it, because I didn't really have an expectation with it going in. And it hits hard. It hits very hard. A choice band Darmanitan is something you really rarely switch into, even some fat bulky waters like a Lomomola take almost half from like a banded Flare Blitz. It's insane how hard this thing really hits. It gives you access to U-turn, which makes it so much more viable. You can pivot around your opponent's team. It just hits so hard. It looks kind of goofy, but I really do like this thing. I used it as a breaker and it worked pretty well. The stats are on the side there. It's got when it came to 8 games, it got 9 kills and 6 deaths, and I didn't bring it to the playoff game that I lost in. But it put in the work through the season, and I just really enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of lower tier fire types, and that is basically why it's on the list. One more thing before I get into number 9 is that there is going to be clips of the featured Pokemon if I remember to do it in editing, so you're not going to see my beautiful face the entire time. But coming in at number 9, we have Noivern, the mascot of the Northside Noburns. I like this thing a lot. I used it in CKVL just once, and I just finished using it in the BFO, though the BFO stats will not be on screen because I just finished that. But Noivern put in the work, came into 4 games, and it really shocked me because Noivern relies on Hurricane and Draco to do a lot of damage, and Draco's got such a downside with the special attack drop, and Hurricane just misses. And boy, do I hate missing. I barely run Focus Blast just for that reason, and Hurricane's the same situation. So having a mon that relies on those moves just to put out damage, it kind of shocks me it made it this high up on the list. But I really enjoyed using it. It's really good as an offensive pivot. Frisk is a great ability, not Telepathy, but Infiltrator. Infiltrator is a really good ability as well. And just this thing just looks cool. I love Noivern. It did real in the playoff game, even though I should have brought Infiltrator. I probably would have won the game if I brought Infiltrator, but hence I did lose because Noivern was the last mon to go down, basically. He went down fighting. So shout out to Noivern. I like it. It's number 9 on this list. Okay, so coming in at number 8 is probably the mon I've used the least out of all of them on this list. We have Cobalion. I used Cobalion in the ABC, which I just wrapped up on the channel, and it only came to 3 games and then 5 including playoffs. But it played really well. This is a mon I really do enjoy using because you can get really creative with this mon. This thing can be offensive, whether it be physically or specially. It can be defensive, really bulky. It can be a stall breaker. You get taunt, toxic. You get rocks. You get volt switch, a good pivot. It does almost everything, and your opponent's gonna have a really hard time trying to figure out what it does. And that's why I like using this thing so much. I had really high expectations for this mon going into it, using it, and it did not disappoint me whatsoever. I did also plan to use it in one of the games I forfeited, and even though I'm only bringing that up because the season was so short already, so it was another extra set I was going to bring. I did draft the Steelium Z around this thing, and having this thing as a Z-mon is so good as well. It's also a good Z-Crystal user, so I mean, just more options for this mon. I'm a big fan of mons you get to do multiple things with, even though I do like mons that you can just do one thing with as well. Cobalion definitely was just something I was really happy with. It looks really cool too. I love Cobalion's look. It's my favorite sort of Justice, to be honest. Terrakion's cool, and Virizian's actually not that bad. Virizian is something I've always wanted to try out, though I haven't. And then Keldeo exists. So that is going to be number 8. Okay, so number 7th on this list is a mon that I probably like using the most, and it's typing. It is Zeraora. It's probably my favorite electric type to use in draft. And I'm going to talk about Zeraora first. This is a physical electric type because a lot of electric types are special. Those people kind of tend towards like that more. But I like the physical, like the physicality in Zeraora. I like the fact that it's a physical electric. Plasma Fist is such a cool move. This thing looks cool already. I don't know why I have the shiny sprite up there, or just the way it came in the one thing where I got all the sprites from. It gets really good coverage. It gets like close combat, knockoff, outrage, fire punch. It's a great Z Crystal user. It's got the power to do that. It's got the good utility to do that. It's got a great speed tier, so you get good speed control. This mon overall is just a great Pokemon in general. I think it's a little underrated and underappreciated, just a little bit, not really. But this thing can do a lot of different things. And the reason it's up here so much because I did build around it in the Ocean League, and it did okay there, but considering I built around Zeraora, and it only went 4 and 5, it was just okay. Like, that doesn't seem great, but I have used it in tournaments before, particularly TTM. I use Zeraora in TTM, and my god, I played, I think, what, like 5 games for TTM? 6 games? I had to forfeit out of it. But it came to every game, and it did great in prep, and it did great in the game. Zeraora did absolutely amazing in the tournament, and it was so good. A lot of teams ended up picking it up, believe it or not, but I still thought it did a really, really good job. It was such a reliable win con in the end in every single game, and it worked. So that's why I liked using it. So I liked using it there a lot more. And I also drafted it in BFO. I just had a battle with it today, actually. Shouts to Matt. And it still put in a decent amount of work. I had it as a win con, and it almost worked out. So shout out to Zeraora. I think Zeraora is a really good mon, and I really enjoy using it. So number 6 on this list is going to be Mega Absol. Yes, I also have the Absol. I didn't mention at the beginning of the video. Mega Absol is number 6. I love this thing so much. If you guys saw me like 3 years ago when I was like 16 years old or whatever, you would think this is my favorite Pokemon of all time. It is edgy as hell, and it looks so cool. I love this thing's design so much. Probably like top 10 favorite like design-wise mons like of all time. This thing I use in the CKBL, and this was like one of those mons I sort of like. I built a style of building at the end of my PEBA Season 2 run, and CKBL was like the first season to come after that. So I used Mega Absol in my new building style, as well as all my CKBL mines. But Mega Absol tend to like show the most how much I improved, because Mega Absol went like 9 and 3, so I used it as a cleaner a lot more than a breaker, and it worked out a lot. I got creative with it. I brought like a Parasong Mega Absol once, and it like worked, which is great. This thing has mixed options, really good speed it's really good speed tier, and it's got priority and sucker punch. And knockoff's really good because it's just so strong, and you knock off your opponent's items. So it's just a great mon overall. This thing looks badass as hell. I wish I could draft it again, but I know with Sword and Shield not having megas, I'm really bummed about it. I can't use Mega Absol again in draft, but I will always cherish the memories I have of it in the CKBL because it is just fantastic. And that is my number 6 pick for my favorite mon to use. Coming in at number 5 on this list, we have Salazzle. I got one word for you guys: playoffs. Salazzle showed up, and I like the fact that it did. It was just insanely good. I'm going to have clips on screen of it. It just did insanely well in the playoffs, and it really set a tone for why I like this mon so much. And this mon is also really unique, and that's why I like it, because of its typing. It's a fire poison type, which isn't a bad type offensively. It could be a little bit better, but it's not that bad overall. But it's actually really good defensively. You look at Salazzle's stats, it's like, what, 60 HP, 60 defense. It's trash, but it actually has really good defensive utility for being that frail because of its typing. It's really good, and that's just defensively. Offensively, it's just Nasty Plot is a set. You can run Specs, Scarf, and Fire Poison coverage is really all you need for really good neutral coverage in general. You also have Dragon Pulse and Hidden Powers to use as well, so that's really neat. This was one of my Z Crystal users, so it was also a good Z Crystal mon. Oblivious and Corrosion, they're both really good abilities in their own right. If I want to run like the defensive Salazzle, because that's actually a thing, you could do that with Oblivious or Corrosion. It's a good mon. And just the playoffs really set the tone for it. If I didn't have the playoffs that I had with Salazzle, it probably wouldn't even be on this list, because it did good in the APM, but it wasn't like fantastic up to that point. It's just, that made me enjoy the APM so much more. It's just the insane playoff run I had there, and with this mon being the leader of the pack, it was just awesome to see. I probably would draft Salazzle again at some point, but there's so many lower tier fire types I still want to try out, so it would be a while until I draft it again. But I would definitely not put it past myself to ever draft this, because it is an amazing mon if you use it correctly. And that is going to be Salazzle, and that's number 5 on this list. Alright. Camera looks good. I was thirsty. But number 4, we're going to continue the trend for fire types. We have Mega Charizard Y. Now, it's on the thumbnail, so I'm sure you guys were expecting it at some point on this list, and here it is. I really wanted to put it up higher on this list, but I had something a little bit higher that I wanted to use like a little bit more. My dog's walking around the background of this video, of this part, so shouts to my dog. But Mega Charizard Y is exceeded all my expectations. I drafted Mega Charizard Y to build around Zeraora originally because I wanted like a special breaker along with a physical one, and something that was like, it wasn't too fast but not too slow. And I was like, oh, Mega Charizard Y is there. I've never used Charizard before. I want to use Charizard in draft. So I chose Y because I just wanted to use Y over X, and it fit the team comp I had going. So I did, and it exceeded all my expectations. So like week 1, I brought it, and I'm like, okay, where's my opponent's fire switch in? It doesn't exist because Haxorus, my opponent had a Haxorus and Fernape. Haxorus, they both took over half, and Fernape switched in that game. It took like 60-something% from Flamethrower. It was nuts. Mega Charizard Y is so good. Yes, it's got the rock weakness, obviously, and that really sucks. And I did have to deal with that throughout the season, but I had spinners on that team. Like, Donphan was a spinner. Floor just had Defog. Superior had Defog, though I didn't really want to bring that too much. You get the gist. I was able to use Mega Charizard Y enough to the point where I was really satisfied with it. And this thing is just such a fun mon to use. You can just send it in and click buttons. You don't need to predict with this mon. It's not really it just click, 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 click. So if you want to draft a mon that hits insanely hard and you don't really have to like predict, this is the mon to use because it's just you click Flamethrower half the time. If you run Fire Blast, if you want to be that guy and get even more damage out, do it, because I'm not a person to like run low accuracy moves, even though Fire Blast is only 85 and that's not that bad, but Flamethrower just was enough for me. I was happy with it. And if you have like bulky waters, then there's Solar Beam. You have Dragon Pulse for like the dragons, and if there's opposing fires, if they can't even touch you, you have like Hidden Powers. You have Earthquake. This thing gets Earthquake. So yeah, Mega Charizard Y, I really enjoyed using it. I highly recommend using it for anyone that's new to League watching this or whatever to draft it, because it's really cool mon. You just have to work around the hazards a bit, and just the way you use it is like I like to break with it. So that's Mega Charizard Y. I love this mon. I wish I could put it higher, but there's a few mods a little bit higher that I enjoy just a little bit more. So number 3 might be a little bit of a shocker to some, but not to me really. Number 3 on this list is going to Mega Gallade. Wow, a Galladite put in freaking Mega Gallade, holder of the Galladite, and number 3 on his top 10 mons to use in draft. Like, you would think it'd be number 1 because it's my favorite mon of all time. No, it's number 3. I do really enjoy using this thing still. I had a hard time putting this above Charizard Y, believe it or not, but I just put it above because I've used it a bit more. I used it in Gen 6 originally, my first ever draft league in the URL. Shout out to Kai the Otter, or Tanner, because he might, I don't know if he's watching this, but I know he'll see the tweet. Basically, I used Mega Gallade back in Gen 6 when it was just okay, because, you know, that speed bump from 80 to 110 that's pretty brutal. So yeah, you always have to run Protect on your Mega Gallades back then. And that stands for a lot of mons, like Mega Lopunny also had that problem. Or Mega Lopunny can run Fake Out, actually. But regardless, Mega Gallade is just a really just lethal mon to go up against. Because unlike Charizard, where you just click buttons, this thing you can do a lot with. Like I mentioned, what was the mon earlier? Not Noburns. It was Cavalia, that was it. I had to look down at my list to see what I was looking at. Cavalia you could do so much with. Mega Gallade you can also do so much with. Even with just holding the Gallade and you can't hold an item, you can still do so much with this mon. Bulk Up, Swords Dance. Psychic Fighting's good stab coverage overall, and you have knockoff and X Scissors for those opposing psychics. So you definitely have options there. So if your opponent thinks you're going to knock off their item, you have a Colbur, you have X Scissors ready for that. Great coverage. You got all the elemental punches. I think the only coverage Gallade doesn't get physically is Steel and Fairy, I think. I could be wrong on that, but it's just, this thing hits 165 base attack. That thing is just nuts. And with Gen 7, you get the speed boost, which is just absolutely amazing right away. Its speed tier is above the 100, so it's outspeeding a lot of things. You could use this as a breaker, a cleaner. You could use it as a support mon because it gets some bulk in its defense, and it's got naturally good spit def already. I love this mon so much, if you guys couldn't tell. Wish, Will-O-Wisp, Healing Wish? I don't think it gets Healing Wish. I should know that. But this thing is just really good to use. It's really reliable. You can bring it to any game, and it has a really good matchup. Some better than others, obviously, but it always has a good matchup regardless. And there's not many mons that really completely hardwall Gallade in one snap. I guess like Clefable's one I can think of off the top of my head. But outside of that, like, Gallade is a really good mon. I love that mon so much. Its design's badass as hell. It's more badass than Mega Absol, and that's saying a lot for me because I'm a pretty edgy person. But that is going to be Mega Gallade. That is number 3 on this list, and we still have 2 more to go through. Moving on to our silver medalist of this top 10. For number 2, my second favorite mon to ever use in draft is going to be Excadrill. Yes, I love Excadrill a lot. I got this guy at a tattoo convention a few months ago. It was only like $1, so even though it looks just kind of, average at best, it was $1. It hangs on my shelf. It's really cool to look at. But speaking of looking at, Excadrill looks absolutely badass. I love this mon so much. Its design, it's one of my favorites. The reason I like this thing so much though in draft is because of weather. I'm a big fan of weather in draft, whether it be any of them, sand, rain, sun, or hail. I kind of wish in Sword and Shield they add an extra weather condition. Not sure what it would be yet. Not fog, because fog in Gen 4 is a disaster. But that could be a topic for a different video. I might make a video now, actually, about that. But anyway, it's just sand, because I like sand a lot, and Excadrill is like the best sand sweeper in the entire game. Set up a Swords Dance, which is relatively easy because if it's typing, though you have to watch out for some things, and then you don't switch into it. That's basically how it is. I had this thing in the APM, and even though I didn't make it a Z Crystal user, it was like I should have. I made Manaphy the Z Crystal user instead. If I would have made Excadrill the Z Crystal user, it would have put in so much more work, Excadrill is just really fun to use. You can just slap it. You can slap it on a team almost, essentially, if you don't have a steel or a ground type yet, which are really good typings. Steel defensively, ground offensively, really good. It's got great abilities. Obviously, I already mentioned Sand Rush. It gets Sand Force. It also gets Mold Breaker, which is a really good ability. You can get rocks up on any Magic Bounce user like Mega Diancie, Mega Sableye, or Espeon. You don't have to worry about that as well, or Toxic on anything. Mold Breaker is just a great ability in general, so that's why I like it. Again, steel, ground coverage, really cool to use. And Excadrill is just really cool. Excadrill is actually he's what, 2.5 feet tall? Even though Excadrill is built as this mon that looks like it could be my height. It's actually a really short mon to use, and for it to hit that hard, I think it just looks amazing like that. I don't really have much else to say. It's also a spinner that's not feral to rocks, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, that's Excadrill's number 2, and if you're a viewer of mine, I'm sure you know what number 1 is going to be, so let's get into that. So I mentioned that in Excadrill that I like to use it as a sand sweeper. Well, I can't mention the sand sweeper without the sand setter. So number 1 on this list, and my favorite ever mon to use in draft, is going to be Hippowdon. I've used Hippowdon the most in draft of any other Pokemon, as it shows in the stats. I've used this thing in 3 leagues, being the APM, the PEBA, and the IBA. Let's break that down real quick. In the APM, I used it to support Excadrill, which was really good because I can set up the sand, and then Excadrill can just sweep in games where sand was really good. And sand just supports Hippowdon itself, so that's really good right there. In the IBA, I have my defensive core, Toxapex, and Skarmory. Yes, it's a little stally, I know. But the one weakness there is that they were weak to electric types. So, Hippowdon deals with electric types. There you go. It works really well. And in the PEBA, I had Mega Diancie. And Mega Diancie was always a good win con, so boosting its special defense with the sand was just really helpful there. So, Hippowdon gives a lot of team support with sand if you use it correctly there. It's a good mon because it can take any one hit because it's really that bulky. It's a defensive wall, but it's got really good spit def, so you could make it spit def and it would not be weird to do that because it's just so bulky. It gets reliable recovery, which in tier 2, it's there's a lot of mons to get recovery in tier 2. A lot of them are bulky waters, so if you don't want a bulky water, you can go the Hippowdon route. That's always what I think. If I don't want a bulky water in tier 2, I'm getting Hippowdon. That's kind of just how it is because I need recovery on a team. It's got naturally good attacks, so I run it defensively most times, even though I still have yet to run an offensive Hippowdon. Even though I brought it 28 games, it's all been defensive, I think. Or especially defensive, you get the gist. But it's got naturally high attack, so it can hit really hard. It's got good coverage. It's got Earthquake, obviously. It's a really good typing and ground. It gets the Fangs, it gets Superpower, Crunch. This thing can do a lot. If you don't want Sand, you can bring Sand Force, even though that's not really helpful. You can still do that. It's in tier 2, which I think that's where it should be, but I think it's a really good tier 2 because, again, recovery. This thing is just basically, in a nutshell, it's reliable, and that's why I like it so much. And when Sword Shield comes out, because I know it's in the game, which I'm really happy about, I would love to draft Hippowdon again, and I probably will draft Hippowdon again. So, be in the channel in the future, once Gen 8 comes out, expect Hippowdon because it's probably going to be coming. That is my favorite mon to ever use in draft format. I love it so much. And that's going to wrap up for the top 10 video for today. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to leave your guys' favorite mons to use in draft in the comment section below. I'm definitely looking forward to checking that out and replying to you guys. If you don't want to do it on the video, I do have a Twitter, which is also in the description below. I highly recommend you go check that out because I post updates on there regularly and I just tweet things out in general. So that's a really good place to get sources for this channel and all that stuff. Next week, I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing either a top 10 or a discussion video, mainly because I don't have a top 10 idea yet. I have one saved for the end, but I want to save that to November when Sword and Shield comes out. So if I don't do a top 10 video, I will do a discussion video. I will post an update for you guys on Twitter at some point before the video goes up, so you guys will know. So again, Twitter's down in the description below, very important. And that's going to wrap it up for the video. Thank you guys for watching so much. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. If you like Pokemon Draft League content, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm gonna head out of here. Have a fantastic day, YouTube. My throat's gone.